Ohayou gozaimasu, konnichiwa, konbanwa, for whenever you're listening to the Joshi Pod, your weekly podcast about the world of Japanese women's wrestling, Joshi Wrestling. I'm your host, Eric Howard, coming to you from beautiful San Diego, California. It's finally about 70 degrees outside, so it's kind of nice. I'm sure some of you are hating me for talking about 70-degree weather, but we've been in like the 80s and 90s and hundreds the last few weeks, but this week it's been chilly at night, so it's been kind of nice. Again, sorry if you're sitting in snow or rain or anything like that right now, but San Diego is America's finest city for a reason. Guys, thank you all so much for listening last week when I did not have a guest, where I just talked about how the Joshi Pod was created and why it was created, and got very positive feedback. I don't feel real comfortable doing shows like that where I just talk by myself. I prefer talking to somebody else. Like this week, I have Raze. Some weeks these shows are for you guys, some weeks these shows are for me, and this one is for me. She's my favorite wrestler in Southern California, my favorite women's wrestler. Well, no, shoot, she's my favorite wrestler in Southern California right now, and I was real happy to get her on the podcast and chit-chat about her career and how COVID's affecting her and what she's doing in the meantime, and we've had some controversies in Southern California. You know, the speaking out movement. It was pretty still in the news now with Joey Ryan, and we go into that. We also go into somebody else here in Southern California that she doesn't think very highly of, who's quite popular. He's been in movies. Listen to find out who that is. But Raze on the show this week. She's a whole lot of fun. She's eloquent. She's intelligent. We go into some deep dives a little bit in some psychology of human beings that do wrestling and things like that. So it's a real fun chat. And again, Ruby's awesome. Follow her on Twitter. I'll put all the her links in the show notes so you guys can follow her. But next week, guys, is the last week. I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but I'm going to try to put out quite a few podcasts next week. Some of my friends, some wrestlers, some people that put on wrestling shows, and just anywhere in between, podcasters, wrestlers, promoters, anybody I can find to talk to, I'm going to put on next week. I'm going to blast you guys with so many podcasts next week. You guys are probably going to get sick of me and be ready for me to go. On that note, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here pretty quickly on this intro this week. I will talk to you guys next week many, many times. Arigatou gozaimasu. All right, guys, back here at the Joshi Pod. Very excited to have somebody who I've seen wrestle probably 1,000 times, and she's never disappointed once. And she's one of the people I think deserves a crack at going over to Japan. She's the equal opportunity ass kicker, the Chingona, my favorite wrestler in Southern California, Raze. Welcome to the Joshi Pod.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
So, I've seen you wrestle on TV. Was it United Wrestling Network, Impact Wrestling? I've seen you on Shimmer and Shine, Southern California, AWS, Ground Zero. I see you at almost every show on Ground Zero. Quick question for you: what's the weirdest show you've ever been on? I don't equate weird to bad. Just what's like what the hell's going on here?
Oh no! This isn't bad. By all means, this is not bad. But definitely the weirdest show I've ever been on, and I will say this till my dying day, is Brian Kendrick's Wrestling Pro Wrestling, WPW, coming out of Southern California.
And explain what made it so strange.
So if you've ever been to a wrestling show, that is basically we bend reality with like animation, but live in front of people. So we literally have, as part of our roster, like Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. We have what's his name? Emotep, which is Emotep, the mummy. So there's Emotep. There is we have wizards. We have wizards that are like missing their shins. We do shows that are like Die Hard, like we reenacted Die Hard in a show. It's just great. Like I'm telling you, look up Brian Kendrick's Wrestling Pro Wrestling, WP Wrestling on Twitter, I believe. And it's ridiculous. It's insane how ridiculous and weird it is, and like that's the whole thing. Let's get weird. Okay, so you're gonna have matches. You're gonna have a mixture of matches that bend this reality between the cosmics and animation and reality, but you're also gonna have some just straight wrestling matches on that show. So it has a little something for everything. And by the way, Freddie Prinze Jr. put it over. So if Freddie Prinze Jr. puts it over, you can't be wrong.
So when Brian's explaining to the wrestlers, like, hey guys, here's my concept, are you guys just like turning your, like doing the dog like head where you're turning your head like sideways, like what?
A little bit, but there's some on the roster that don't do, or at least don't do a lot of the bending reality animation sort of matches. So like you've had people like Bateman that have been on the show. I've been on the show. Eli Everfly, Delilah Doom, and a lot of times we'll get like the straight matches, like we just get a wrestle. But there's also the other part of the show where you have my kid sister and the guy that turned into Chucky, the one that they made Chucky off of, kid brother, my kid sister. Like you have a mixture. So usually I generally get to wrestle just straight matches there, but I have done one where I was a wizard's daughter. That was fun. But I've done that before. I've done that in regular wrestling before. I also have my alternate character, Raze Kruger, who is essentially the Dula Dent of professional wrestling, where I dress up as Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers or Hannibal, and I have this weird complex where I think these figures, these slasher figures like Freddy or Michael are my fathers, so I dress up like them and I go out and I wrestle like them. And in those matches that I do, which is completely aside from Ruby Raze, I do bend reality in those matches. So I'm sure Jim Cornette hates me at some given point, and that's okay, whatever.
He hates everybody, so you're part of a big club.
Mm-hmm.
So Benny, B-Boy, if you're listening to this, I'm laying the gauntlet down there, buddy. You need to step up your game and get some animation and dragons and stuff on your shows, buddy.
I don't think I could ever see B-Boy doing this out here for Ground Zero. I don't know if I can see the animations one on there. That'd be fun, but
a lot of straightforward wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ruby, I like I said before, I've seen you wrestle quite a. I think I saw you wrestle as Freddy Krueger at an AWS show, maybe I saw.
Yeah, me and my ex tag team partner Sage Thin, we used to do a Freddy and Jason, Raze Krueger and Jay Thin. So she would dress as Jason Voorhees, and I would dress as Freddy Krueger, and that was essentially our tag gimmick, our go-to tag gimmick. And but otherwise than that, I did do the AWS Women's Tournament, and I went through all the rounds. Eventually, I won the tournament, but each round I did a different horror persona. So first round, I was Michael Myers against Jordan Grace. I won that. Second round, I was Freddy Krueger against Candice LeRae. I won that. And in the final round, I was Hannibal Lecter, and I had an orderly bring me out to the ringside with chains on me and everything. That was against Lufisto, and I won that one to win the tournament. So that was definitely a fun and challenging night. And every time I came out, I was bloodier and bloodier and bloodier. It was great. I loved that night.
So how did you, I'm going to ask the stereotypical questions here because I want people to get to know you a little bit. How did you get into wrestling?
I flunked out of college.
You too, huh?
No, I did. I really did.
Me too.
At some given point, hey, things we have in common. Yeah. At some given point, I actually did. I went to community college. I started there, and I flunked out with a 0.86 GPA. They kicked me out of college, so I went to art school because I'm like, okay, well, I got to do something with my life. So I went to art school, and I started doing visual journalism, and we had to choose specialty fields, and I chose concerts and sports photography, and I started shooting wrestling. Well, my shooting wrestling connected me with UEW out here in Southern California and a couple other promotions, and I wound up traveling and shooting wrestling traveling. I wound up in Oklahoma, which is where I met Tyler Bateman, better known as just Bateman, Ring of Honor, and all that. He moved to California, and he trained me for 5 years, just me and him. I was his manager. I was actually manager of him, Funny Bone, and his name was Drago then, but now he's known as Simon Gotch. So I was their trios manager. Then I went on just to be Tyler Bateman's manager, and he trained me on the road for 5 years before anything. And then Gary Yap actually is the one that put me in as a manager legitimately for Epic War. I don't know if you guys know about Epic War, but Epic War was a promotion out here in Southern California that had a bunch of great people. They had Brian Danielson, Samoa Joe, all Willie Mack, Bateman, all these people before they were anybody in professional wrestling. So I was there, and then I did that for 5 years as a manager, learning on the road, basically training with anybody that would train me. B-Boy, Ricardo Rodriguez, all these people in Southern California that we had. And then eventually I had a singles match against Chris Evans, who was the Insane Wrestling League's ex-heavyweight champion. So I had my first singles match ever. I was still a manager, and I had an intergender match against this guy who's an ex-Marine, an ex-champion for the company, and it went off like great. I still haven't watched it, but I know that I had it. I know that I lost. It happened on the day the Mayan calendar was supposed to end in 2012. So it's like December 24th, 2012 or something like that. And it was really, it went off well. And before then, I had done like battle royals as a manager, or like tag matches with Bateman as a manager. But this was my first thing going into a match, like as a wrestler, a singles, and it went off well. After that, I decided I was going to try, I really wanted to try my hand at wrestling. All these places were trying to book me off this one match. And I took a couple of matches, and I'm like, oh God, these are horrible. These are such bad matches. Like, I don't want to be that girl in professional wrestling who's having these bad matches, but everybody's like, oh yeah, it's so good, it's so great. Yeah, shut up. No, these are bad matches. I know bad wrestling. I've been in the business for 5 years at this point. Like, stop telling me this. So I wound up talking to Robbie Phoenix, who is a trainer at Santino Brothers, and I talked to him about the school because I'd been eyeballing it. And about the same time, I just graduated college because, surprise, I actually did go back to college. I did well. I was applying for grad schools. I had like top-notch GPAs. I was applying for grad schools specifically where I knew wrestling schools were. So I was looking up CZW and what colleges were around CZW. I was looking up All Pro Wrestling. I was looking up colleges around All Pro Wrestling. I looked at Santino Brothers, colleges around Santino Brothers, and basically anywhere where I knew there was a reputable school, I was trying to find, a reputable wrestling school. I was trying to find a grad school to go to around it that would match my what I was doing in school.
Your priorities were straight, right?
Oh, totally straight. Yeah. I talked to Roman Alexander, who you might remember from All Pro Wrestling, Be on the Mat, and he told me that I needed to find a school that was going to be good for me, academically, make sure I take care of myself. And so as I started getting my offers back from grad schools, I got accepted to places like Palo Alto. I got accepted to Harvard. I got accepted to USC. I got accepted to all these like really great schools. And I wound up choosing USC because it was close to Santino Brothers, and it left me here in Southern California. So June of 2013, I started at Santino Brothers the same time that I was moving from where I am to closer to USC so I could go to grad school. And that's where I started my like legit official training to be a pro wrestler. And I did 3 months under Joey Chaos at Santino Brothers, where he's like, you already know what you're doing. You already know stuff. And so he's like, I'm just polishing you up, and I'm going to send you out into the world. So after 3 months, he gave my blessings to Bart Kapitsky for AWS. And my very first train show, I wrestled 3 times in one night, and it just kind of went from there. So I've been up and running as a professional wrestler. Technically, since August 2013 was my first professional wrestling matches.
Santino Brothers has put out some pretty talented people.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm dropping my headphones. Yeah, Santino Brothers is. Oh, they are definitely the top notch. They're top notch. We have. I don't know. You name it. You got a lot of good names that come out of there. There's everybody knows Brody King, Jake Atlas. I don't know how well everybody knows indies, but you have like Jesse James. You have, I don't know, like we have so many people that come out of there that are doing like good things around. So it's kind of hard to say because I feel like if I start naming off people, I'm going to miss people and people are going to get mad at me.
And they have Ruby Raze.
They have me. Yay. I mean, you also have, you got also like CC Chanel for WoW. I work for WoW. There's a lot of, there's not a ton of females that come out of Santino Brothers. A lot of times I don't think females are equipped to hang at Santino Brothers because they are like, I'm not trying to shoot our own horn, but I'm going to. The Elite Pro Wrestling School here, and it's hard. It was harder before, but it's still hard to get out of there. So to make it through all of the Santino curriculum, because you have about a year's worth of curriculum as a wrestler before you get out, it's tough. The beginning class is like boot camp. I don't know how I would have survived had I gone. I mean, I would have survived. I don't know if I would have survived well if I had done the beginner's course like on my own. But that stuff's tough. Like it's tough at Santino Brothers. You have 4 courses that you have to get through, and now before you can become a professional wrestler, and now you have 4 courses. Then you have my show that I do with Santino Brothers, Up All Night, that you have to go through before you're like really given the blessing to go out on the indie circuit. So you have the whole year curriculum, then you have to work for us at Up All Night, and then you can go out now.
So how involved are you with Santino?
I'm pretty involved. Currently, I have been assistant coaching with Joey Chaos on their online courses, which they just started. We just completed our first online course, which is very seminar heavy, psychology heavy. I would call it almost like a pre-beginner's course because it's not physical, because we can't do the physical right now because of coronavirus. But we do everything from match breakdowns. We talk about strikes. We talk about character. We talk about promos. You get homework. You have matches that you have to watch. You have to source matches. You have to cut promos. Like it's ridiculous. So, and it's, by ridiculous, I mean really, really good. So I've been assisting Joey Chaos on that. Before, when we were running, when I went, I would help train classes. I do Up All Night, which is essentially Up All Night is a, you know how they're doing like the WWE Dark thing? Like we were doing something like that before they were doing it. But honestly, I got the concept from Beyond Wrestling when they were doing wrestling shows that only wrestlers could attend. And so that's what Up All Night is. It's a show where you cannot come and attend our show unless you are a professional wrestler or a wrestler in training. You can only be on their show if you're invited to be on our show. Like, don't, like, people contact me. I'm like, maybe. But it's a very close set Fight Club sort of feel where we're doing matches that you're not going to see. And we'll source, I'll source people. Like, I'll get people like Andy Brown to come in and do matches with us. You know, Bateman was doing matches with us. We had, you know, a bunch of great people coming in and working with newer talents or people on the indie scene that aren't getting their cuts. You know, maybe you're not getting the matches where you need. So I'm seeing people like Jesse James. I know I said him before, but Jesse James is a great wrestler. He is amazing, but for some reason, he's not taken off the way he should. Okay, well, let me shine a light on you. Let me put you in there with people that you're not going to get the matches with. So I do that as the booker, producer, everything for that. Help with training. Yeah, basically, I get my hand in wherever I can. I think Santino Brothers is a great training academy. So anywhere I could get my hand in there, I definitely do.
So how much do you enjoy the training process and the coaching process?
I love coaching. I don't I don't know if that's that old homage, like if you can't do, you should teach, but I love training because I as a person, like my master's degree is in psychology. So as a person with a master's in psychology, one of the things I had to learn about was teaching and learning and the learning process and how this goes in neurocognitive aspects in neuropsychology. So how does the brain process this learning? So when coaches are teaching a certain way, I might come in a certain route and explain something a little bit different, which either if they're not getting it the first time, maybe they'll understand it when they hear it from me a second time. And I reinforce a whole lot of failing to learn, because you got to fail to learn. If you know how not to do something, you're that much closer to learning how to do something, you know? So I love, from the psychology standpoint, from my academic standpoint, I absolutely love teaching. It's something that helps drive me. And I really like seeing newer people with passion and trying to help foster that passion and putting my resources and investing into people that I think actually have like a really great future in front of them, but they just need like a little extra help. Like that's my go-to, because coming into the business, I had people, and even still to this day, I have people invest in me that I'm like, oh my God, why are you helping me out? You have no reason to do this. Thank you so much. So I just, it's that giving back process, I think.
I'm going to ask this. I'm not intending to insult you, so you're probably going to be insulted when I ask you this, but it's not my intention. But are you wasting your brains on wrestling?
I've had so many people say that to me. I'm legitimately, like, I'm not mad at you saying that. Like, I've had people tell me that, you're kind of wasting your brains on wrestling. Oh, you know, maybe, but I know for a fact that my body will eventually expire for professional wrestling, but the degrees I hold and my brain power will not. So I have this knowledge bank. It's not going to go anywhere. I know I was a research psychologist. I studied humans. I'm a published scientist. I got it. If I need to, and when I got to, I could go back and do this. And, you know, it's psychology. It's not going to go anywhere.
But I think it's wonderful, somebody with your education and your background that is giving back to the business, and not just somebody who was been on the road. You know, you've got some technical training, education, plus you're on the road training as well. So you kind of have the best of both worlds.
Oh yeah, definitely. I did not come into wrestling in any sort of, I guess you would say I came into wrestling in a more old school traditional route. So that gives me a really great appreciation for everything that I've done and everything I'm doing and all the crap that I've had to go through to get to just where I am. And it was harder. It was definitely a lot harder than I could have just from the get-go gone to a training school and been out and did stuff a whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier. But I've seen so many facets of wrestling that it's really helped me appreciate the business as a whole, and not just from the wrestling aspect, but from the booking aspect, from the producing aspect, from, you know, running shows, running backstage, doing all this stuff. And just because it's all stuff that I've gotten to do at this point. And so I definitely wouldn't trade that, but I wouldn't trade going to school either. I thought that going to school and doing wrestling simultaneously was probably the best thing I could have done. I do both at the same time and not have to worry about, you know, work and obligations and stuff besides school.
What do your parents think about you continuing like in wrestling with the education that you have?
Oh, I'm sure they absolutely hate it. I'm sure, like my mom always tells me that I need to get a job in the field. And but then she sees what I do, and she sees me like at WoW, or she sees me up for prime time, and that makes her a little bit more okay, I think. But yeah, I know, and they know, and they tell me that they believe me when I say they remind me about my student debt that I still have, and and the fact that, you know, I did out of USC, I had a job as a marketing analyst for one of the top, well, the top charter school here in California, and that was a great job that I had, and got to do research and I got to do all this stuff, but it was sucking the soul out of my body to not be able to dedicate myself to what I really loved. And honestly, I'd rather have something to do, something that I'm passionate about, and maybe not make as much money than to sit there at a desk 9 to 5. And I think someone put this on Twitter earlier. I'd rather die in a ring than die in a cubicle at this point, because
I saw that.
yeah, I can't live a life without passion. And it's just, and when you've done that thing, I don't want to get by just to get by. And at the end of my life, I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, well, I ran spreadsheets for this company and it was great. No, I'd rather be like, okay, well, I traveled. I didn't make a ton of money, but I traveled. I did this. I did that. I got to see all these places and meet these amazing people and have these awesome moments between me and fans. And, you know, stuff did pay off and stuff was paying off all the way up into Corona. And that just kind of screwed everything. So
in a weird way, that's why I started this podcast too, because I work a 9 to 5, and a cubicle sometimes in the field sometimes, but I wanted something different, something that I love, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I started the podcast.
Exactly. Like you want to do something that at least do something in your passion. But the thing with wrestling is you can't do wrestling like half-assed. Mm-hmm. You can't, not saying that you're doing the podcast half-assed, very much not saying that. But wrestling is something you have to dedicate your life to, and it's not just a couple hours a day. It was, I'm going to say this was, because before coronavirus, 12 years of my life that were taken like every weekends and holidays and from birthdays, and it ruined relationships, and it ran your entire life, and then all of a sudden coronavirus happens, and it's like a hard stop, a very hard stop, and you're suddenly not doing anything. But for those 12 years, like, it took your life. That is who you are. That, I am Ruby Raze. This is my life. This is what I do. And now we're at this, hard stop. It's kind of coming back now. But for those 12 years, it might have been 12 lives. I'm not sure. But for those 12 years, like, I had that passion, and I had, even when I hated it, even when I hated the travel, and when I hated, and I'm getting tired and I'm sleepy, I'm hurt, you still have this drive to do it. And that drive only comes from your heart. You can't have that from anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Is that the hardest part of being a wrestler, is the travel and the weekends are stolen from you? Not stolen from you because you're doing what you want to do, but is that the hardest part about being a wrestler?
For me, it was definitely the travel, because of the way my travel was always set up. And it'd be like, for me, I'm gone for days, I'm back for 3 days, I'm gone for 2 days, I'm back for 1 day, I'm gone for 4 days, I'm back for 3 days. Like, it was so back and forth for me. It should have been planned smarter, where I could have stayed somewhere and just been gone for like the week or 2 weeks at a time or whatever. But because the way my travel was always set up, I was so back and forth, that was taxing on me. Not just from a body standpoint, but from a relationship standpoint, that was very much wearing on me, from trying to have any sort of normalcy outside of wrestling. That wore on me. The travel was definitely the one that got me the most, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like, it wasn't to the point where I hated life. I got tired and I was getting sick of it for a while, but it wasn't to that point that would make me quit.
What's your favorite thing about being a wrestler?
Beside, this is gonna sound cliche, making moments and making memories in the ring that I hope that resonate with people, that last with them, especially when it comes to younger female fans, having them come up to you. And there's this picture that I have of a little fan, and she's wearing red lipstick and has that little line under her eye, and like stuff like that drives me. This little girl that used to come with a face mask on whenever I wrestled, that stuff drives me. I think because my plan was always to show that you could be a strong female wrestler, whether you're wrestling guys or girls, but specifically against men, and to just show to the females out there that you can fight back. And the messages I've gotten from fans and stuff like that, especially female fans that are inspired by my character and inspired by who I am. I say character, but it's really who I am. That
you're a chingona.
It shows, I am. I definitely am. But it just shows them that they can be strong. Like, I'm stupid in real life too. Don't get me wrong. I'm dumb. I've gotten into legit fist fights with guys in real life. I've gotten into stupid situations in real life, because I've always been about standing up for like the underdog and standing up for people that can't stand up for themselves, even if they're in the wrong. Like, I live here and I'm literally looking out to my street right now. One given point, there was a fight that was about to go down on my street, and I live in a nice neighborhood, but there was 3 guys about to come up on this one guy, and I'm sitting there watching from my window. I'm like, oh hell no, this is not going to happen, and this is not going to happen here. So I grabbed a bat because we had a bat. I grabbed a bat and I went out to the street and I yelled at those guys, oh hell no, you guys want to go 3-on-1? Let's go 3-on-2, and my bat will make 3. Let's go. And trust and believe, they did not stay, and the guy that they were coming after walked away too. But like that's always been what I'm about, standing up against things and standing up for like wrong and justice and all stuff like that. And that's just how I was raised. That's where I'm from. You know, my parents were fighters in the Farm Workers Union back in the 70s with Cesar Chavez. So it's always been about standing up for yourself and standing up for others. So that's kind of what I try to bring into the ring as well. I don't know if I do it correctly, but I'm trying.
Well, I can speak for my niece, who's a special needs young lady, and my mom, who's in her 70s. They both love you very, very much.
Oh, that's great. See, stuff like that. That's what I love.
Yeah, my mom, she took me to wrestling before I was born. I was in her stomach still when I went to my first wrestling show. But now I take her to the Ground Zero shows every single time I'm in the front row. Benny takes care of me and gets me in the front row.
Oh, that's great. I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom's the one in the wheelchair, like right by the entrance usually. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Anywho, so you have wrestled for many different companies. When you started wrestling, did you have certain goals set for yourself? Like, I want to wrestle here, I want to wrestle there, that kind of thing at all?
I did have a goal when I started in professional wrestling, and I feel like I've accomplished it. So at one given point, a couple years ago, I was ready to quit. Because I was ready to quit, and I had talked to a couple of podcasts about being ready to quit from Southern California, they actually gave me a reason to move forward. So my goal originally was to show that good female wrestling could come out of Southern California, because at the time, and not to knock people, at the time there was only about 4 female wrestlers, and that's it. And they were wrestling each other. And so like, you got to think back to like 2007, 2008, 2009, all around that time. Think about the Southern California wrestling scene, and we had like Candice LeRae, Katana Vera, Tara Calloway, Thunder Kitty, and Mariah Rorendo. New York, Nikki the New York Knockout as well. But all the matches revolved around them 5 or 6, and that was it. Just wrestling each other. There wasn't a whole lot of traveling. You're not seeing a whole lot of females fly out of Southern California to go other places. And I wanted to help break through that barrier. And so that was my goal. And my goal also was to wrestle the men, not just to wrestle women, not just help put us on for women, but to wrestle the men too, because there wasn't a whole lot of that going on back then as well. Intergender wrestling wasn't as big, so that was a huge goal. And thankfully, going to Santino Brothers, they gave me the opportunity to wrestle the guys. You know, IWL gave me my very first match before I was even trained against a guy. So I've been able to do all this stuff against men and against women, and I'd like to think that I at least had a little hand in helping push that envelope. Candice LeRae definitely had a huge hand in that with her matches against the Bucks and everything that she did for PWG. But aside from that, you know, you also had the other spots, the smaller spots, and I was trying to wrestle guys everywhere I can, and I think that all paid off eventually. I mean, I made the PWI 500 this year as the intergender wrestler, so that was a huge honor, being able to solidify myself in there. And I think there was only 16 females that made the 500 this year, so that was that was great in itself. I've always just been trying to help Southern California get on that map, and it's Southern California. I'm sure you know it's a hard spot. It's an island because we're out here, and I feel like there's so much good wrestling out here. But to get yourself out of Southern California and to the East Coast and to the mid-states, like, you really have to have people invest in you, because that's a far flight, which is a big ticket when you're flying out there. So any times that I get to do that, you just got to be grateful, and to see people fly out from here to other spots. You got myself, you have Eli Everfly, definitely Delilah Doom out here now, Delilah Doom, and other people that are getting able to break out of Southern California, go places like that. To me, is definitely awesome to see.
Yeah, and I'm not a giant fan of intergender wrestling. I'm just not. It's not my thing. But for you, I mean, again, this could insult you, but I hope it's meant to be a compliment to you. But for you, it seems different for me when you wrestle the guys than when some other women wrestle the guys. It I don't want to say legitimate, but it just seems different when you're wrestling a guy versus somebody who's much smaller is wrestling one of the guys.
Um, I'm not insulted. I hear what you're saying. Um, I think it's different because my approach to intergender wrestling definitely differs from other people's approaches to intergender wrestling. And I'm sure I've gotten heat for this somewhere and I haven't heard about it yet. And I've said it on another podcast and I'll say it here again. I used to think that intergender wrestling was for everyone, but as I've grown as a wrestler and as I've gotten older and as I watch more stuff, I don't think intergender wrestling is for everyone. I think intergender wrestling needs to be smart. I think intergender wrestling needs to be well thought out. I think intergender wrestling isn't for everyone. And I think if you're going to be a smaller person, be it like not to knock her, Delilah Doom, Viperous, any of the other girls that are like small in stature, that if you're going to do this, you need to do it smart. You need to do it wise. You need to do it with a stern look at psychology and what you're doing in the ring. Not saying that these girls don't, but this is like what you have to have to do well in intergender wrestling to help legitimize what intergender wrestling is. And that's not just for girls. I'm going to say this as well for guys. When you have someone like Eli Everfly, or, if you want to put this on the bigger stage, if you want to have someone like Rey Mysterio, who's like definitely a smaller guy, when you look at the other people in WWE, all these matches need to be done wisely and smart for them to make sense and for them to come across as legitimate, to help legitimize what you're doing, to make it be that thing that you look at and be like, holy crap, this person used their wit, they used their intelligence to overcome their opponent. And that's what I try to do, even despite I'm one of the larger female wrestlers on the indie scene. I believe I'm coming in at, about 5'10", definitely taller with my boots on, but I'll stand up to these guys. And you got people that I've wrestled like Willie Mack or Brian Cage or even Chris Bays. Like, you gotta be smart in what you're doing with them and use what you have against them, and not try to just be that. I'm not gonna treat Brian Cage or Willie Mack the same way I treated Heather Monroe in a match. This isn't gonna happen. That's not how it should happen. So that's my take on intergender wrestling, and hopefully it comes across when I try to make it the best that I could do and make it the most believable that I could do.
Yeah, and you're right as far as like Eli. If Eli's wrestling, Bateman or somebody like that, he's got to do something different than he would in a normal match. He has with somebody similar size to him. So, yeah. So maybe it's not intergender. Maybe it's just a size thing I have in my head. I don't know. But no, I enjoy like when you wrestle. I think did you wrestle like B-boy? I think I saw you wrestle before.
Oh, I've definitely wrestled B-boy a couple times. I've wrestled Bateman. Bateman's one of my greatest opponents. Andy Brown. But I also
so good. Andy Brown is so good.
Oh my God, Andy Brown is so good. I had one singles match against him, and then me and Nicole Savoy had a tag match against him and Bateman, and those are like legitimately two of my favorite matches. Bateman is definitely, top of the food chain. I learned, and I say this because I learned everything from him, but I watch him and he's just so amazing. Andy Brown is definitely the hidden gem of Southern California. He's so good, and he should be so many. Like, Andy Brown needs to be on AEW, or Andy Brown needs to be on Impact. Andy Brown needs to be on ROH somewhere. Like, universe, put Andy Brown somewhere amazing, because everybody needs to see what this guy could do.
Yeah, I always say that if I ever started a company, I'd pull Andy Brown and Ray Rosas from Southern California, and they would be on my roster instantly.
Ray Rosas too. Come on, like, he just did AEW. He did one match, and then he did one dark. Come on, Ray Rosas is top notch. He's actually, Ray Rosas is one of the people. I've only wrestled him 3 times in singles, but one, two, three, four times in singles. But Ray Rosas is definitely someone that could help bring out the best in anybody, anybody.
Yeah, I'm got my fingers crossed for a PP Ray reunion in AEW.
Let's do it, universe.
Make it
PP Ray
happen.
for AEW. Come on. They're my obsession.
They're everybody's obsession. So
Oh yeah.
So this is the Joshi Pod, right? So you've had some matches against some Joshi wrestlers in the past. So you've been in the ring with was it Mima Shimoda?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's it like? I mean, because I think your style is very Japanese-like. You know, you would fit very well in a Japanese company. What's it like getting to wrestle somebody from that's they're very highly trained over there? What's it like to wrestle somebody very highly trained from Japan?
So you have Mima Shimoda. Hold on.
You wrestled Akane Fujita as well, didn't you?
Oh, I did. Oh my God, Akane. Holy crap, she is amazing. It was okay. So Akane was I wrestled her in a three-way, me, her, and Delilah Doom for Wrestling Pro Wrestling, Brian Krentic show. We had a straight match, but I was playing a character called Ruby Huxtable, which I was essentially Rudy Huxtable from the Cosby Show. I played that character for a while there. It was actually really fun. But Akane was in that one, and then I had a singles against Akane for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and Akane doesn't have like full English, so we had Kikotaro helping translate for our singles match, and they're I feel like the Japanese wrestling has a whole different level of psychology, because I'm sitting here and I'm trying to do this with Akane, and Kikotaro is coming in. He's like, "No, you strong, you stronger, you do." I'm like, okay, like I need to play this up more. But yeah, Akane was definitely someone who I really appreciated in the ring, and all the help that Kikotaro gave us. Kikotaro is amazing himself. I got to wrestle him a couple times. But I feel like they're on a whole different level when it comes to psychology, and I would love, by all means, to go train in Japan someday. Maybe, I don't know, I'm getting old. But someday.
It's funny
also,
when talk about Akane real quick. When because I got to meet her and interview her down here in San Diego before I think a Fish show outside of a strip club down here in San Diego.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
But she looks when you watch her on an Ice Ribbon show, she looks big, but when you meet her, she's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of she looks big to Japanese wrestlers, but to here she just looks like she's a tiny little girl or woman.
She is. She's not that big. That's the weird thing about professional wrestling. When you look at girls, you get someone like Akane, and she's probably 5'7", maybe. But Akane looks huge when you compare her to a lot of other female wrestlers here, because a lot of female wrestlers are definitely short. And then I see me in the ring with her at Championship Wrestling, and I look like a giant, a giant next to her. Like, and there's definitely other females that I've wrestled that have maybe not from Japan, that train in Japan, like Amazing Kong. I've wrestled with Kong, and Kong looks like a monster in the ring, but when you watch the match and me and Kong square up, we're almost the same height. I'm just like, oh wow, like you see these people and they're larger than life, and it is just really kind of telling you the landscape of female professional wrestling. Like, a lot of them are really short. I'm not trying to knock girls. I'm not trying to knock girls, by all means. But I feel like a giant most of the time in the ring compared to people.
Has there ever been an instance like in a wrestling match where you like look across the ring like, man, I'm in the ring with blah blah blah? Is there anybody?
Yeah. I feel like that happens to me a lot. Like, holy shit, holy crap, I'm in the ring. Can I cuss? I don't know.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Holy smokes, I am in the ring with Brian Cage. That was one. Like, oh my god, I'm in the ring with Brian Cage. Oh my god, I'm in the ring with Kong. I almost used your shoot name. Sorry. I wrestled
She's a
Jazz.
she's a TV star now, so you can see her. Yeah.
I can. Okay, Kia. Okay, so I wrestled Kia. Like, the fact that I gave a Samoan drop to Kia. Oh my god! If I never did anything else in professional wrestling, I Samoan dropped Kia. Holy crap! Definitely, at one given point in Texas, I wrestled Jazz for the NWA Women's title. Like, oh my god, I'm in here with Jazz. There was, besides, in the ring, I've definitely, in my very first year of professional wrestling, I got to work for the Crash, and in that match, it was me, Psycho Clown, and Pimpinella against Taya Valkyrie, Cybernetico, and Mamba. Like, that is like a holy crap. This is within my first year of professional wrestling. Within my first year of professional wrestling, I wrestled Lufisto. This is someone that I've watched. This is someone that I've seen, and I've watched her. I feel like I've had so many of those moments where I'm just like, oh my god, the biggest one that I've had, the biggest, like, holy crap, I'm in the ring with her. You want me to tell you?
Yes.
Lightning from Glow, the original Glow, Lightning, Cheryl Russa. Like, I got to, for a while I was working on a project that involved a bunch of the original Glow girls, and I was in there, and me and Lightning are helping train these girls, and like I have clips of me like doing pop-up ranas and stuff with Lightning. I'm just like, holy crap. These are women that I've looked up to as a kid, and now I'm in here in the ring with Lightning, and there is MTV on the sidelines helping watch and coach us. Like, oh my god. I've been so fortunate, because that whole thing right there was like full circle, because as a child I used to watch Glow. I used to watch, Hollywood, Vine, Lightning, the cheerleaders. I watched that moment where one of the cheerleaders got her elbow, like, knocked out of socket.
Susie Spirit or something like that?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows that. If you watch Glow, you know this moment, because it is so traumatic. And you see her, like, she's doing like a second rope, second buckle, sunset flip, and it just goes completely wrong. And you see her elbow pop out of socket, and you're just like, holy crap. This is dangerous. Oh my god. Like, how did this happen? But I'm in there, and I'm in there with these Glow girls, and I'm going to these trainings with people from Glow, the original Glow, and I'm just like, oh my god, childhood me is marking out so hard right now. But adult me, adult professional wrestler me, needs to be cool right now.
You know that Crash show you worked on, Sonata, who just like main evented New Japan's show? He was on that card too.
There were so many dope people on that card. I mean, just to take it back all those years, in my first year of professional wrestling, there's Penta and Phoenix are on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to meet them backstage. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Now look at you. Now look at these guys. I've made so many friends in professional wrestling, like people that I could call friends, like Bestia, Luke Hawks, all these people that are from around that have done like these amazing things. And I'm just like, hey guys, let's go hang out. What's going on? Oh, I'm in Louisiana right now, But I think professional wrestling in general has been like a huge blessing when it comes to meeting people from all walks of life. And it's cool because I feel like no matter where I go in the United States, at least, if something goes wrong, I know someone that I could call to help me out. And there's some legitimately like amazing people that I've met. Like Eddie Kingston is a gem and a half. King is God. Like, King is he's an amazing person who I would definitely call on if I ever need help. Luke Hawks, I will sing the praises of Luke Hawks like to the day I die. I don't care what anybody else has to say about him. He's like, that's my boy. Bateman, definitely. There's so many great people out there in the world, and thankfully, because of professional wrestling, have gotten to meet them and gotten to become friends with them. So that's a godsend about wrestling.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. I hope I don't offend you, which I probably will, because I'm good at these kind of questions. Do you ever think about like starting a family, having kids, things like that? Has that crossed your mind at all?
It did cross my mind at some given point. It crossed my mind, but I also realized that what I do as a wrestler is not conducive to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be very selfish of me to do that. And it's not just as a professional wrestler. Like, the way I live my life in general isn't conducive to having an offspring. And I hate to say that, because I'm very selfish in the fact that I want to be a professional wrestler and I want to travel and I want to, go out and live my life. And on top of that, because COVID has changed things dramatically, I've taken up surfing, and that is also a completely different life in and of itself. So I'm finding myself basically replacing wrestling with surfing. So I have my wrestling bag. I have my bag that's always packed. I have at least a bodyboard in my car. Every weekend I go somewhere and I'm surfing somewhere else, here and there, here and there. I don't think that as a female it would be fair of me to do that to a child, because I would want to be there 24/7 for my child, and that's not what wrestling gives me, and that's definitely not what being in the water, surfing, and bodyboarding would give me. But I do have the best friend who had 2 children, so I get to spoil them, and I get to be around them anytime I want. And then when it's time to go, I gotta go, but I can come back, and there they are. And guess what? You get to take care of them, but I get to reap the benefits.
You get to rile them up and let the mom take care of them after that.
Oh, I totally do. I have this. I have my nephew, who isn't my blood nephew, but he's my best friend's kid. And I've already, like, since he was small, he was doing bridges, and I've already taught him. We know he knows how to go up for a power bomb. He knows how to give me the tilt-a-whirl head scissors. We doing it. I'm training him. He doesn't know, but I've been secretly low-key training him.
So let's praise some people in Southern California that maybe people haven't heard quite yet. Let's start with Dom Kubrick. I think Dom Kubrick is so freaking good.
Dom Kubrick, yes. Dom Kubrick is someone who came into Santino Brothers, and he has grown immensely. I'm gonna say this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's grown immensely because of bar wrestling. That he got to be put with a bunch of different opponents that got to push him, and his time training with Jake, I feel, helped him a lot too. So from the very first time I ever wrestled Dom to the last time I wrestled Dom was a completely different Dom, and good stuff.
Let's talk about Delilah Doom. I think in Southern California, when I talk about maybe part of me not minding you wrestling the guys as much as other people, I think, is because I don't think there's a ton of women at your level. But I think Delilah Doom is one of those people at your level.
Delilah Doom is, I'll say this and never tell her that I said this. I love Delilah Doom. I love her so much. And anybody that knows Delilah's career knows that she's not from Southern California, and she's not from the Santino Brothers dojo. However, we have adopted her at the Santino Brothers dojo. We've made her one of our own. She's actually comes from the Funaki dojo. She was in Texas before she came to California, and before then she was somewhere on the East Coast. I'm going to forget. New Hampshire? No. Boston, maybe? But she eventually made her way over to Southern California, and now she's here, and we've taken her into one of our own. Delilah is someone who, I will tell you straight up, and I'm not going to lie, I love this girl. I will wrestle her 7 days a week, twice on Sundays. Me and Delilah have a chemistry that you can't fake. And Delilah Doom is someone who I hope I bring out the best in, and she brings out the best in me. And I feel like she's done great. She gets a little reckless sometimes. I know this because she's done it with me. But we'll go out there and me and Delilah will put our bodies on the line, and we'll leave it all in the ring. We are all about creating moments, and we are, she's like legitimately like my favorite opponent that I've ever met.
I've seen her and Eli just kill each other in the ring.
Oh yeah, they well, I don't think it's any secret that they're engaged, but they'll get definitely in there with the ring. I'll kill Delilah. I'll pull up the clip for you. At a Fist Combat show, I took her and I gave her an axe guillotine driver off the apron onto a table. She took it like a champ. But she's definitely, I love her so much because she put so much trust into me. And from the moment that I have ever wrestled her at Sabotage 1 to, no, sorry, Sabotage 2 to this day, every time we ever met, we just go completely, quote unquote, balls to the wall with each other. And I love that about her. And not everybody will do that with you. It takes a special level of trust and commitment to go in and do that.
Adrian Quest is another person that's I've seen just grow leaps and bounds too in the last few years.
I'm going to say yes, but I really couldn't talk about Adrian Quest because I don't really know him.
Okay.
We share a lot of locker rooms together, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know him as a person. He comes from a Hard Knocks
Mm-hmm.
under Jesse Hernandez, and I've seen him and he does great. But I've definitely never wrestled him, but I see him doing good. I see him doing great things, but I can't speak too much to that because I don't really know him. Not to knock you, Questy. I just don't know you.
So you wrestled Human Tornado, who I adore the Human Tornado. For some reason, he follows the Joshi Pod on Twitter, and we interact quite a bit on Twitter. But what's it like to wrestle the living legend Human Tornado?
I hated it. I'm not lying. I hated it. I didn't like.
Was he just not into it that night?
Okay. So here's the thing about Tornado. When you wrestle him, you're either gonna get good Tornado or bad Tornado.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I got bad Tornado, and I wrestled him once. I will say this without a doubt. I will not accept a booking against him again. Um, because of what happened in the ring that night. I mean, it happens. Okay, I'm gonna say this. It happens. Sometimes wrestling. So let me tell you guys. Sometimes wrestling isn't just wrestling. Sometimes wrestling turns into a fight. Me and Tornado's match turned into a fight. Where at some given point, he's just blasting on me, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and take this because this isn't what I do. I'm not going to sit here and just be beat up because this is not what I do. So I have to start fighting back, and it becomes a legitimate fight back. And that's what happened with me and Tornado. You guys could watch the match. It's from Fist Combat. Me and him had a match, and I feel like it was definitely a fight in the ring, which I wouldn't mind if we were friends, I guess.
If you're working together?
Huh?
If you're working together?
Yeah, we weren't. We definitely weren't working together. It wasn't a good. It was a good match. People liked it, but that match was definitely a fight that was 100% not necessarily on script. And because of that, I just, and because the stuff has happened afterwards with me and Tornado and appearances afterwards, I won't wrestle again. This podcast is probably gonna get me heat right now. I won't accept a booking against him again. I'm done with him. I'm done with that. I don't like being disrespected. I don't like being talked down to. I don't like being any of that stuff. And I definitely don't like when people are sitting there making sexual remarks about my body after the match. So I won't wrestle Tornado again. I'm good with that.
Oh no, that's excellent. I'm glad you spoke up because, I mean, we can kind of segue this a little bit into what's happened in Southern California. It's happened across the country. It's happened in England and stuff about the women. You are in a lot of locker rooms with a lot of guys, and a lot of stories have come out about people not being respectful of the women in the locker rooms. And I'm getting. It sounds like you've had to experience that yourself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and since we're talking about Tornado. I'll say this, and I alluded to it on Twitter, and I know I have, like 9,000 Twitter followers. So if they even saw this, like, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to be around him. I don't appreciate anybody that talks about my body or talks about my body parts, after the match in the locker room and stuff like that. That's not what I'm there for. For the longest time as a professional wrestler, I was very, very, very modest in my gear and in the way I dressed because I wanted to be seen as professional and I wanted to be seen as a legitimate wrestler. But as time moved on and I wanted to do, different types of gear and different types of length and this and that, now I definitely wear like halter top type tops and corset type tops and definitely shorter shorts. And I don't appreciate anybody making comments to me that are very unwarranted about my body in the locker room or about, my appearance and stuff like that. I personally don't find myself to be that sexy, Scarlett Bordeaux type of female. Like she's god awful gorgeous. I'll tell her to the day she dies. You're god awful gorgeous, Scarlett. But I'm not going to sit there and make comments about her body or her ass or her thighs or her boobs or stuff like that, because that's it's not professional, for one, and even just as a person, it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate Scarlett, and I know I'm talking about Scarlett right now because she's a great person. She's a great soul. Every time I ever met her, every time I ever worked with her, she's been nothing but utmost respectful and a genuine person. So to not have that respect towards me from anybody, be it male or female, in the locker room, definitely upsets me. And I did spout off about a couple people. I didn't hashtag speaking out them, but I spouted off a little bit, and yeah, I don't want to be around those types of people. And sometimes I'll even avoid shows that they're on,
Mm.
whether I'm on it or not. Um, or I'll just make sure that, wherever you are in the locker room, I am exactly on the opposite end. That has happened. It has happened to me, not just here in Southern California. It's happened to be very rare in Southern California. It's really weird. It's not weird, but Southern California is really respectful of the females that are here. I feel like because we're so secluded, it's like a Big Brothers Club where everybody watches out for the females. But if you sneak through, and a couple comments and a couple things, and if I could pull up a podcast where there's someone definitely talking disrespectfully about me and my body, in a very sexual way, that type of stuff will make me never want to wrestle that person ever again.
So, from a Southern California wrestler's perspective, I mean, Joey Ryan has gotten, and he's maybe gotten what he deserved. I don't know, but he's been ostracized on social media and stuff. But as a wrestler in Southern California, he was a promoter out here. He gave people bookings at shows out here. How has the wrestling community in Southern California reacted to what's happened with Joey?
I feel like a lot of people turn their back on him because of what happened. I feel like a lot of people realized probably stuff that happened to them, maybe regarding him. They weren't the only one. I'll speak for myself mostly when it comes to this, because I don't want to speak for other people, even though I've seen on Twitter people hint at this and things like that regarding him. Joey Ryan was definitely someone that helped me out a lot in professional wrestling. He, got me bookings at Bar Wrestling. He got me opportunities at different promotions. He got me opportunities for stunt work. He got me opportunities for TV shows, music videos, stunt work, like all this stuff. I definitely appreciated everything he ever did for me, but it's rough to know what happened, and to think that all the opportunities that he gave for people, not just me. He ran Bar Wrestling. He gave. If it wasn't for Bar Wrestling, a lot of the people in Southern California wouldn't have gotten the light shined on them that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very unfortunate that it came down to what it came down to, and that I'm hard to judge because I'm not in their shoes. I'm not in his shoes. I'm not in the female shoes. But it just sucks, man. Like you want to think the best of a person, and I always think the best of people around me until they show me otherwise. And I think it's just a bad situation overall, and the way it's coming about, and the way it's circling about, and the counter suing, suing and stuff like that. It's gonna get deeper than what it is, and I don't wish any bad on anybody, including him, but it just sucks, man. That's that's the biggest thing. It just sucks. You don't want to hear about something like that, especially from someone who you knew and someone that you would have considered a friend.
Has the wrestling community kind of just, I mean, you talk to other wrestlers. I mean, have they kind of stepped away and backed off from him? Not
Yeah.
trying to get too close to him.
Yeah, I feel like everybody just stood back, and even people that I knew that were his like greatest supporters that weren't necessarily vocal supporters, but people that supported him as a person and what he did for wrestling, what he did for intergender wrestling, what he did for, females in Southern California. Like, I don't know one person that is like, you know what, still Joey Ryan, hell yeah. I don't know. I don't know one person that's done that. Everybody just backed up and backed away at this point because I don't think anybody wants to be associated with that sort of scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It just sucks. You don't want you don't want what they are saying to be true, but you don't. But if it is true, then it sucks too. You know what I mean? It just sucks all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't. And the other thing about this is that you want to believe the people that are speaking out because it'll take a lot of courage to speak out about topics like this. But at the same time, if you know that person, you kind of don't want to believe it too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a hard twist in that. And like, I'll say this straight out. There was someone that got wrapped up in the speaking out movement who is a dear personal friend of mine. I know this guy like I know the back of my hand. Like I really know this guy, and he got tagged in it, and he messaged me. He's like, "What is going on? What's going on? I'm on this list, this and that." And I was like, "You know what? Straight up, I'll speak on your behalf. I know you're not like that, but at the same time, I don't know this girl. I don't know her story. I don't know. I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened between you and her. I will never know. The only people that know are you and her."
Mm-hmm.
So, but then when you come to someone like Joey Ryan, it's not just one person. It's not just two people. It's not just three people. It's like all these people, and they all have like similar stories. And you're like, damn it. Like, I want to think the best in you because I want to think the best in you because that's how I am. But it's hard. It really is hard. And
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to give the benefit of the doubt when it's a dozen people.
yeah, exactly. I mean, when it's like, not trying to say that it's wrong, but when it's just like one person, okay, what's going on? Was there a miscommunication? What happened? But when it's like one people, two people, three people, four, five, six, okay, there's an underlying factor here. You don't want to believe it, but you kind of got to.
So when you, with your educational background and things you've studied, do you ever take a step back and look at like, what kind of people become professional wrestlers?
You don't think I don't?
So tell me what you give me your analysis, Miss Scientist, about the type of people that go into pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling is interesting. I actually wanted to do a study on professional wrestling, and there is a doctor out there, Dr. David Reese, who is a psychiatrist. He was based out of New York, who I had come into connection with between psychology and wrestling. He is very much a psychiatrist wrestler. He's not a wrestler. Studies wrestling. He does a lot. He's actually been on board for Cauliflower Alley, and he's given seminars at Cauliflower Alley before about traumatic brain injuries, professional wrestling, and stuff like that. So when I look at professional wrestling and I think about the type of people that are going to be in there, and this is going to sound really weird and nobody wants to hear it, it's very similar to people that would be recruited for a cult. And that's just part. Some are very similar. The other scenario is that it is very attention seeking, very much approval oriented sort of people. Not saying that that's everyone, not saying that that's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of that too, where and this is where I'm gonna, like, if I go deep dive into like psychology and stuff like that, nobody wants to hear this. There's a huge crossover.
I do.
I will tell you that. Over into between professional wrestling and addiction.
Mm.
The thing with addiction is like you crave that stimulation, the chaoticness, the chaos that comes with life. chaos is a hallmark of addiction. Chaos is a hallmark of being that people that are attention seeking, craving stimulation and stuff like that. um I feel like there's a crossover between like professional wrestling addiction. Someone's gonna bing me for this so hard. But I feel like there's this crossover.
No.
And
Wait,
when you
oh,
think about addiction, um there's hallmarks of addiction where you have this need, and then you have this need, and then you need more. That's that tolerance where you want more and you need more. And I feel like that comes with professional wrestling too, because it's not okay to just be, if you're into professional wrestling, you're really into wrestling, it's not just okay to be a professional wrestler. You want more, you want higher accolades, you want more, you want those titles, and after those titles you want those world championships, and then you want bigger crowds, and you like build up a tolerance in wrestling, and then you have to succeed that tolerance to get to the next level. And that's like the same thing that goes with addiction. You have like, okay, so you're gonna have a couple beers, okay, now you need a couple beers and Jack Daniels, now you need a couple beers and Jack Daniels and this and that, like. And if you go back into, I'm going to say the 80s because that's going to be the biggest one that'll come up to my head. You have the professional wrestlers that are also into drugs, that are also into like drinking and the painkillers and this and that. Like, I feel like there's a very, at some given point, there's like this crossroads or this parallel with professional wrestling and addiction and addictive personalities. And maybe you're not hitting the booze, you're not hitting the pills, you're not hitting the drugs, but then what your replacement is, professional wrestling, is very much like an addiction, because you want more and you'll never be satisfied if you're just on the same level. Like, the people that are in it, they're not okay just being a local wrestler. You got to go more, more, more. um and people will say, oh well, yeah, that's wrestling, of course, you got to go bigger or go home. But if you look at the way people talk to a wrestler, talk to a wrestler that hasn't wrestled in a month and ask them what they feel like. Because if you haven't wrestled in a month, 2 months, you get very agitated and you're ready to strike a fight with someone on the street. I'm telling you, talk to wrestlers. They
need
will
your
tell you
fix.
this. If they're
Need your
not
fix,
wrestling
right?
for, it is. It's like they want to get their fix. They're not fighting in the ring. They want to fight elsewhere. And this isn't just something that I've heard from um, people that I know. I've heard of this from other wrestlers too. Like, I'm not wrestling. It's COVID. I haven't wrestled for 3 months. I'm about ready to start a fight with someone in the street. Why? You want that fix, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's like this crossover. There's this parallel addiction like scenario from professional wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, you have years and years and years of data to back you up with, drug addiction, sex addiction, spending money is an addiction, I think, as well. That there's years and years and years of people, kind of proving your point.
Oh yeah, there is. And you look at professional wrestling, you look at the greats. A lot of them have some sort of comorbid um, addiction type scenarios. Not everyone, but a lot of them have something else that they're doing hard with it as well. You know.
Yeah. So Ruby, today it's October 20th, 2020. Where do you, or what do you want for the rest of your wrestling career? What do you have planned, or what do you want to do with the rest of your wrestling career?
Oh lordy. Well, I knew what I was and I knew where I was going before COVID. And then COVID hit and everything, just like I said earlier, came to a grinding halt. I was ready to quit. Um, there is a man by the name of Alex who convinced me not to quit when I was ready to quit.
Good man.
Um, yeah, good man. You can find him on my Instagram. He convinced me not to quit. I had so many things lined up that were going to be really, really great and really awesome. And just to recently find out these projects aren't coming back, these things aren't coming back. Now I'm looking at professional wrestling, and it's hard because I started. I'm gonna say I went back to my original love. My original love in my life was bodyboarding, surfing, being in the water. Um, if I had never gotten into professional wrestling, I probably would have chased being a professional surfer. So I've actually gone back to that. I've gone back to the water. I've been bodyboarding. I've been surfing. I've actually gone, I haven't said this on social media yet, but I've actually had to go to the hospital already once for surfing. But
Do
if I
share.
look,
What happened?
so okay, I just I grew up bodyboarding on the beaches of Southern California and stuff like that, and that's great and that's fine. I always wanted to surf, so on this hiatus from wrestling, I decided to take up surfing with my brother, who's been surfing for at least a decade now. He surfs in Australia, Costa Rica, all these foreign places. My brother um, was going to train me to be a surfer, so I have this longboard, I have a shortboard. We went out. My brother took me 2 days out into easy water, and then on the third day, he's like, "Okay, now you're doing it. I'm not gonna go out with you. You're gonna follow behind us, follow the line. Get out to the lineup, get out by yourself." And when I say get out to the lineup, that means everybody paddles out and they get out past the breakers, and they're sitting in like calm waters waiting for the waves to come. So we're out here in Oxnard and Rivermouth and Oxnard, and it's a big day. My brother is very much like, it's a big day. Come on, you're gonna go too, because this is what I used to do as a kid. I would chase them into the big waves, and let's just go. So I'm out there, and I'm having a little bit of trouble getting out to the lineup. I finally get out to the lineup. I'm like, whew, okay, I made it. I made it, guys. I made it, guys. I'm sitting out there with me and two other guys, me, my brother, and two other guys. And here comes a wave, and it's a pretty sizable wave. So I get on it, I take it in, and then as I'm coming in, I hit a riptide, and I feel the riptide. Like if you're in the water, you can feel a riptide,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty big one. I'm like, oh crap, I'm in a riptide. Okay, cool. I grew up on the beaches. I know how to deal with this. So I'm swimming, and I'm trying to go parallel, get out of the riptide, but there's these waves that are coming on the riptide that are just pounding me, pounding me, pounding me. But it's okay. I'm still doing okay. Finally, this huge wave comes. I'm looking out. I'm like, oh shit. Good. Uh, the mentality is, if a wave looks like it's about to crash on you and you have your board, if you could ditch your board, ditch your board. So I'm a goofy foot surfer. So the leash is wrapped around my left leg, and I'm on my board. I look at this wave. I'm like, oh shit, ditch the board. This thing is going to crash like right on top of me. I ditch the board out to my right, and I go to dive into the wave, not thinking that the leash is on my left. The way I ditched the board, the leash wrapped around my leg up at my knee. So I ditch the board, it wraps around my knee. I dive into the wave, just my body. The board's somewhere else. I'm, diving through the wave. I'm like, oh, I'm safe. And then the wave hits my board.
Oh.
I'm underwater, diving through this huge ass wave. The wave hits my board. I think I'm clear, and all of a sudden I'm sucked backwards at least 3 feet underwater because this cord wraps around my knee. Basically, does like a cravat. Is that what it's called? A cravat through my knee,
Mm-hmm.
tightens up right under my knee, gets tight, and rips all the way from my knee down to my ankle. This cord. Imagine like a cord. So it rips around my knee all the way down my ankle. I'm diving through the wave. I'm sucked back 3 feet underwater. I'm like, holy shit, that hurt. I come up and I come up and I look at my board and I wrap my hand around the leash. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I grab the board and I turn around and a wave breaks on me and it grabs my board again. And there I go again, being dragged by my leg underwater by these waves and my board. And I come out and I get up and I look at my brother and he's looking at me and he like signals to go back to shore. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm going in. Get out. By the time I get to the shore and I start walking, my leg shin all starts turning like purple. And there's pictures on my Instagram, on my social media. Oh my God, it's so bad. And here I am a month out, and I had to actually go to the hospital because the bruising is so bad and the stuff is so bad. It feels like someone has a brick inside my calf right now.
Mm.
So I had to go to the hospital for that recently. And they thought I had a blood clot that might dislodge and go into my lungs. So I had to go in super quick and get stuff stat. I'm cleared on that, but I might have torn muscles and stuff like that in my leg, but whatever. I don't think I want to go back in for that. I don't want to know. Let's just keep going.
Rub some dirt on it, it'll heal. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote some Sonic Banana. Let's just throw a little arnica. I'll be okay. I'm fine. It's just like wrestling, right? Let's just keep going. But I want. I'm gonna put this out in the universe right now. When I look forward to wrestling, I look ahead. Besides keeping up with Primetime Live, which I've been doing, championship wrestling, which I've been doing. Um, I want a shot at a Ring of Honor. That's somewhere I want to be. And maybe it's because Bateman is there and he is my original trainer, my original mentor, my still mentor. I want a shot at Ring of Honor. That is goals right now for me, to get there, or maybe AEW, but definitely ROH is a goal for me right now.
I would like to see you in Japan. I think you would fare very well over there.
I would like to go to Japan, except for the places I've actually been in communication with some places in Japan. Um, apparently, I'm not monster enough for Japan, so
Put your wetsuit on and become a surfer girl, and you can go to Japan as a surfer girl.
That's what I'm saying.
Blonde
I'm
hair,
already.
yeah, come on.
I'm partway there. Like, just bring me. I'm gonna bring that locals only attitude right now. My gimmick, my whole character is changing up a little bit. I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive now that I've been coming back to wrestling. If you watch Primetime Live, if you watch Championship Wrestling, I'm definitely coming in more aggressive. I'm gonna bring that locals only attitude to professional wrestling, and I'm still gonna be Shingona. But if you ain't from here, if you ain't around here, I'm gonna demolish your ass.
So a question I'd like to ask everybody, who's chopped you the hardest?
I would love to say it was Brody King, because my match against Brody King, which you can find on YouTube, currently has 10 million views. Me and Brody started off our match exchanging chops and strikes, and he definitely has a big one. Willie Mack definitely has a big one. But I was watching this the other day. Mamba from Mexico, Exotico from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Mamba has the hardest chop that I have ever had. And you can watch the video, and you watch me and Mama. I don't know why I wanted it. I don't know why I asked for it. I asked for that chop. I got that chop. You could see sweat just coming off my chest at the crash. Mamba. It is definitely Mamba.
If somebody hasn't seen Ruby Raze wrestle before, what match would you suggest they watch to see the best of Ruby Raze?
Oh crap. Probably either me versus Bad Dude Tito for AWS.
He's underrated too. He's so good.
He's so underrated. That's my intergender tag partner. Together we make Bad Days. Bad Dude Tito, Ruby Raze, Bad Days. And actually, me and Tito have some stuff coming up that people will be able to see, not just on the indie circuit, but on national TV.
Nice.
So me and Tito have some stuff coming up. So I would definitely say the match versus me versus Tito for AWS, or me versus Delilah Doom. Oh, there's three: me versus Delilah Doom for Ground Zero, or me versus Andy Brown for Ground Zero.
Yeah, I saw both of those matches. Wonderful matches. Yeah.
Yep. Those are my fun ones.
Awesome. So Ruby, where can we find you on social media?
On every and all social media, you can find me under the name Razor Pops. That's RAZERPOPS.
Quick question for you. I've not talked to anybody that's worked for a while before. You worked for a while? What was that experience like?
Working for a while is amazing, actually. It's but make no mistake about it, working for WoW is hard work. Number one, working for WoW, I would probably call akin working for the original Glow, because we have a training center in Long Beach, where we go train there. So I go to Santino Brothers. I also have to go to WoW training. So I go to training at WoW. When you go to WoW, they like Lucha Underground, they put you when it comes time for tapings, they put you up in a hotel, a very nice hotel in downtown LA. However, in the basement of that hotel, there is a wrestling ring that they put there. And so you're not just in the hotel for 5 days and hanging out. You're gonna do 3 days of hanging out, 3 days of taping. So you're there for 6 days. Yeah, it'll be cool. No, you're there for 3 days before the tapings, and before those tapings you're in the basement training for 3 days. knowing what you're going to do, your matches and stuff like that. So you got to train while you're in the hotel. And then after that, your 3 days of taping are literally from anywhere between 5 a.m., 6 or 7 in the morning is your call time, and you're wrestling until about 10 o'clock at night. On top of that, those days you have to do vignettes. So you might have to go do a vignette after the show, interviews after the show, stuff like that. It is a ton of work. Thankfully, we have Selena Majors there to help us through it all. David McLean also is there for the taping days, but at training, it's all Selena. She is, if you don't know Selena, she is definitely a staple for women's wrestling in America. She's there for those 3 days to help you train. She's also there at the training in Long Beach. It's rough. It's so rough. Like literally, it's tough, but it's definitely worth it. You get to go do that, and you're there with a bunch of girls, and they're all definitely great girls. I've met so many actually really great people from WoW. Between the Dixie Darlings are some of my favorites. I got to see Hudson Envy again. I got to,
She's
Simone
terrific,
Cherie or
too.
no, yeah, Hudson's great. Simone Cherie, aka Cece Chanel. There's like a ton of girls there. Gambina, she's so great too.
And some of the girls aren't super experienced. So, I mean, it's probably nice to have somebody with the kind of experience you have there working with
Oh
them.
yeah. It was interesting when I got brought into WoW. They wanted me to tag with this girl named Chainsaw, and I was like, oh my god, Chainsaw, the heavy metal sisters, we're gonna do this. I was so excited. I was like, freak yeah, I'm gonna be like a heavy metal sister. But then when I got to training, they got to see the type of wrestler I was, and that I could actually hold my own and that could do a bunch of stuff. And they're like, we don't want you as a tag partner for Chainsaw then, because we want to go ahead and put you on the next season and push you as a singles wrestler. So I was very fortunate in the aspect that they liked me and they understood that I was coachable, which is huge when it comes to TV wrestling, to be coachable. So that means that you're not just going in there and being who you are, but that you could do what they want you to do. And so they told me what they wanted me to do. I'm like, okay, you want this sort of wrestling, you want this sort of wrestler. So I did that. I did that for them. And they decided that they didn't want me to tag. They wanted me to be my own wrestler. So they gave me my character, because they'll give you your character. They give you your name. They give you your character, but they want your character to be an offshoot of who you are. So at WoW, I'm very much a low rider Latina chick, because my family is very much into rebuilding cars, classics and stuff like that. So I'm very fortunate in the aspect that they drew that in for me. For the vignettes, I got to drive this classic lowrider car with switches, and they were popping the switches for me as I'm driving it through downtown LA, shooting these vignettes and stuff like that. It's great. Like, I could not sing the praises of WoW enough and how well they have treated me, and I can't wait for them to come back. We're just COVID,
Yeah.
COVID.
Just COVID.
Yeah.
All right, Ruby, thank you so much for joining me. I really can't thank you for the time you've spent with us. And everybody follow her on social media. Check her out on YouTube. She's so good. Someday, I know people in Japan are listening. I'm going to get you to Japan, Ruby.
Thank you. Get me there.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.